Mara was lazily moving her pencil around in her notebook, mindlessly picking out scraps of the teacher's explanations. The pencil fell, she leaned over, but then something incomprehensible happened. When Mara looked up, the world around her had changed. Blood was everywhere, on the walls, on the desks, on the clothes of her classmates. Where Kathleen had sat a moment ago, there were now only shreds of flesh. The teenagers, distraught with horror, rushed toward the exit, sweeping each other away. In the schoolyard, Mara breathed heavily, feeling her heart racing. The police quickly arrived at the schoolyard. All the students were taken to the Covington station, where the interrogations continued until almost dawn. The teens began to come up with different theories, each with their own version, as to why the incident had happened. Mara listened silently, occasionally chuckling at the ridiculous theories. Mara was taken away by her parents. Her father was concerned, her mother insisted she stay home and skip school. The room was dark and quiet, but sleep wouldn't come. The phone vibrated, bringing her out of her half-asleep state. A simple and concise message came from an unfamiliar number. He turned out to be amusing, and they had a quick dialogue. The next day, a farewell to Kathleen was held at school. One of the students sang a song, choosing for the ceremony a completely inappropriate composition for such an occasion. Mara decided to relax and in the evening together with a friend bought mushrooms. Once in their childhood, Mara and Tess had made a promise to each other. When they grew old, they would buy a house by the sea and sit on the veranda smoking hookah. While they were discussing their future, Dylan approached them. It was the same stranger who had sent her a message the day before. After Kathleen's death, he had long wondered what would happen to them. It had made him confess to Mara that he liked her. The girl stood silently, took his hand and led the way. The mushrooms had already started to take effect, she was dizzy and someone had to hold her by the hair. After the hallucinations were over, Dylan invited her to the homecoming match, and Mara had no reason to refuse. During the match, Mara tried to take a picture. But the camera failed to capture the moment. One of the players suddenly exploded. Panic gripped the stands. People screamed, ran away, someone fell in the crush. Dylan squeezed her hand tightly, and Mara hugged him for the first time out of fear. Riots broke out in Covington. Crowds of people took to the streets with placards, "This city is cursed." It soon became known that school was cancelled. Mara, walking through the city, ran into Dylan. They were driving through the night streets, the wind whipping their faces, and the city lights twinkled as if winking at them. Later, when everyone had gathered for the noisy memorial party, Mara and Dylan were alone in the courtyard, thinking about what might have caused the explosions. Mara suddenly realized how much she wanted to kiss him. They kissed for the first time, but at that moment there was a scream. Someone had exploded again. The next day, Mara and Tess were summoned to her office by Agent Carla Rossetti. She suggested that perhaps drugs were to blame. Mara didn't believe their theory. She went out with her friends in a car to use illegal substances. But her friends exploded. Mara miraculously managed to get out. When Dylan found her by the river, they barely had time to talk. Out of nowhere, men in hazmat suits appeared and took her away. She woke up in a hospital room. A woman who introduced herself as Dr. Rolanda was leaning over her. Next to her lay Dylan. The government is turning the tent camp into a science lab. Teenagers are being interrogated, examined, drugs tested on them. The teens want to know how long this will last, but so far the government itself doesn't know the answer. During class, one of the students explodes again. Deaths are becoming part of everyday life. People disappear at night, right during conversations. Scientists conduct experiments, but they have not yet come up with a pill that can stop the explosions. They have no choice but to release the teenagers. They are met by their parents, exhausted from waiting. Mara returns home, where her mom and dad have prepared a surprise Christmas tree. She invites Dylan over to her place and they make love. Dylan says he wants to live in the present. They return to school, where only their class is now attending. Their classmate Cole has started wearing a hazmat suit because of his paranoia. After class, Mara has a conversation with an FBI agent. The woman advises to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Mara makes a life choice. She gives Dylan a surprise. Mara and Tessie discuss a strange theory about typewriters and monkeys at a cafe where they are unexpectedly refused service because of a curse. The place was once a favorite, but now even here they are strangers. Rumors begin to spread around town that their classroom is cursed, which is why it's exploding. During another class, another explosion begins. Panic, screaming, crush. In the chaos, Mara loses Dylan's hand. She falls, and before her eyes, Cole explodes. Falling out of the crowd, Mara runs through the hallways in shock. Suddenly, Dylan appears. He hugs her, glad she's alive. Then he explodes. She walks through the streets, unable to believe what has happened. Her mother finds her, takes her home and helps her wash off the blood. Having lost her lover, Mara no longer wants to live. Now life seems meaningless to her. After Dylan's death, Mara completely withdraws from those around her. She ignores even Tessie, who tries to support her. Instead, she rewatches old videos of Dylan, drowning in memories. After getting drunk, she goes to Tessie's house. There, a fight breaks out between the girls. The next morning, Tess leaves on the school bus. In response, Mara screams that she hates her. She steals alcohol from a supermarket and runs into FBI agent Carla Rossetti. She tries to help her, but Mara only crashes her car. At home, an argument with her parents reaches a breaking point. Later, looking through the school forum, the girl stumbles upon a discussion of her involvement in mysterious deaths. It turns out that she always found herself near at the moment of explosions. This thought does not give her peace. At the graduation, Mara reconciles with Tessie. Her friend informs her that she's leaving the same night. As the graduates take turns giving their farewell speeches, she apologizes for being cursed. But suddenly, each subsequent student does the same. One by one they apologize for the deaths of their friends, believing that they themselves are the ones cursed. Realizing that she is not alone in her pain, Mara leaves the ceremony. She arrives at Dylan's grave and takes a long look at the headstone with the inscription "I'll be here." The girl whispers that she loves him, too, and lies down next to him. Back home, Mara reconciles with her parents. She peels the band-aid off her forehead and sees the scar, the last mark from Dylan. Months pass and it seems that their unknown deaths are over. Mara decides to take a road trip in the milkman's van left to her by Dylan. As she says goodbye to her parents, she contemplates her future. But in the end she decides to live for today. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. See you soon.